Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to race in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now obviously the easiest way to race is to, drive your car forwards and turn when you need to. But really what this video is going to be showing you guys some tips and tricks that I have learned along the way in Grand Theft Auto Online when it comes to actually racing. Now, if you're wondering why I'm making this video, because I don't really post a lot of racing content in GTA, a ton of people have actually asked me to make a racing guide on the video that I made showing off all of the best cars for each individual class of racing in Grand Theft Auto Online. So I figured I would oblige and I would actually make a racing guide. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video today. Now, there's quite a few things to know in GTA Online when it comes to actually racing. There's a couple of little weird gimmicks that you can do to actually shave some seconds off of your laps in GTA. Just to start off with some pretty basic stuff, if you are racing, you are always going to want to try to take the inside of the corner. Obviously, if you take the inside of a corner, you have to go way less distance than if you take the outside. As you guys can see, I just took the outside of this corner, and that takes a ton more time than it does to just take the inside of the corner like you guys just saw right there. If you do that on enough corners within a race, you will save yourself a good amount of time, usually a couple of seconds. So for example, right here, you're going to want to stay to the inside of that line. Now on this track that I'm on right now, which is called East Coast, there are a couple of cheesy little things that you can do to gain yourself a little bit of time on your race. So for example, the first one of these things that you can do is you can actually skip going through these loop-de-loops. However, on certain ones of these, you're going to have to be really careful because a lot of the time you won't actually make that jump unless you have some considerable speed going into it. So that's something to watch out for sure, but if you master it, you can actually save yourself a decent amount of time. Now there are some other things you can do on this race. For example, you can wall ride and save yourself a tiny little bit of time, but it is pretty sketchy because as you guys could see, I completely missed the checkpoint. So you have to get really close to the top of these wall rides to actually be able to hit the checkpoint. If you do it though, you can save yourself an absolute ton of time. And there are multiple of these wall rides on this race in particular, and on quite a few of the other stunt races that are in the game too. Now another tip that I have for you guys is when you are in the tubes like this, you want to go as high as possible on the walls. Now for some reason in this game, when you get really high up in these tubes, your car just goes insanely fast. I think it has something to do with there being a really low grip on them, so your car just kind of glides along. So it can be really helpful actually. As you guys can see, that's a successful wall ride right there, except I landed really terribly. These things take a lot of practice to actually get good at, and in order to actually save some time, you really gotta practice them. I'm not a very avid wall rider in this game. However, I can achieve it on occasion. Now on this track in particular, there is a really cheeky way to do this. As you guys can see, going up that slope right there, if you go up the side of the wall and keep your tires on the ground the whole time, you will go through the tunnel a lot faster and ascend a lot quicker. Whereas if you just drive up straight, you go up really slow. As you guys can see, I'm going to remain really high in these tubes, and my car is going absolutely insanely fast. So if you guys are planning on using any of these tactics that I'm showing you guys, it's definitely going to take some practice and some getting used to. And you're probably going to want to go into a race by yourself before you start trying these things and actually test them out for yourselves to make sure that you're comfortable with doing them in an actual race if you ever go into one. Now, East Coast is my favorite track personally. However, I haven't raced in a very long time in GTA since the last time they were double money in RP, so it's been a minute. However, I am pretty comfortable on this race to actually do some of the crazier things that you can do. So I'm going to show you guys what a quick lap looks like if I'm really trying my hardest. Now, it might not be the best. I'm probably going to mess up. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to mess up right here. Oh, not bad. That definitely didn't save me much time, but it probably saved me a little bit of time. Now, just some general tips is always you're going to want to take the inside line on a corner. Like I mentioned before, that is going to be something that throughout an entire lap of doing that, you will actually save yourself a surprising amount of time. Another thing, of course, go high in the tubes whenever possible. Skip these loop-de-loops whenever possible as well. Wall ride whenever you can and whenever you're comfortable with it. This one is one that you are going to have a really hard time doing that on. I don't know why, but this corner is different than the rest of them, so this is one that you're going to want to skip on East Coast, and there's going to be certain ones that you're going to want to skip on a lot of the different stunt races in the game. Of course, as well, you're going to want to stay out of the water whenever possible because it will slow your car down quite a bit, so avoid that whenever you can. Now I'm going to show you guys this part of the race again where you ascend in this tube. You're going to want to either pick to go on the left hand side or the right hand side. I like the left personally. you go up and then you come around like this. It is a very, very quick way to ascend that hill in particular on East Coast when compared to actually just going up it normally. Sometimes with the Krieger, you can even go a little bit too fast like you guys just saw right there and actually mess up. So you got to be really, really careful. So that is pretty much my guide to East Coast there. Do any of these little things and you will save yourself some time throughout the entire race. And it's overall pretty worth your time. Now, if you guys actually take the time to learn all of these things that I have showed you, you will actually save yourself quite a bit of time. And if you're playing against players who don't know how to do any of this stuff, you will give yourself a huge advantage. All right, guys, and one more thing that I really wanted to show you guys is curb boosting. Now, if you have never heard of curb boosting, it is one of the best things that you can do in GTA Online when you're racing to actually gain an advantage over your opponents. Now, on PC, a lot of players seem to know about this. However, I have raced against a fair amount of people on PC as well who have no idea about what curb boosting is. So basically, the best way that I can really explain it is tricking your car into thinking that you are doing something that you are not. What you do to curb boost is you go over top of these side lines on the racetracks. So on certain cars like the Italy GTO, which is exactly what I'm driving right here, curb boosting is extremely effective. And how you actually do curb boosting is you take your car and you put it on these strips on the sides of the race. Now with a car like the Italy GTO, the suspension setup for some reason on this car has a huge advantage when going over bumps, and it actually will make the car go faster. So if you have a bunch of bumps to go over, your car will go faster. Now this is the case with several vehicles in GTA Online. I'm not exactly sure of a list of all of them, but pretty much every single vehicle in this game to some degree benefits from curb boosting. Now curb boosting essentially does the exact same thing that going through the tubes does. It makes your car not have full grip all the time, aka your car is in the air some of the time, which is why you get such a crazy speed boost in the tubes as well. Curb boosting is one and the same, except you are not inside a tube. Now I'm going to show you guys what curb boosting looks like when you're actually racing right now, since I have a pretty long straightaway to use. You basically go back and forth over top of this thing and your car gains a speed boost. I don't know why, I don't know the logic behind it, I honestly don't think there is any logic behind it, but trust me, if you start curb boosting in a race and nobody else is curb boosting, you are going to have a massive advantage over the other players in your race, I promise you. Curb boosting is one of the most underrated things in this game, and for some reason, not much of the player population actually seems to know about it. Curb boosting is, honest to God, very overpowered, especially in the sports class with a car like the Italy GTO. Again, the Italy GTO is the best sports car. Don't even talk to me if you think otherwise. It's the best sports car. And this is another reason for it being the best sports car, is because the Italy GTO benefits so much from curb boosting. As you guys can see, every time that I go over this, it almost appears like the car is going faster, and it actually is. Every single time that you bring the wheels of this car up off of the ground for even a millisecond, a split second, anything, any amount of time, the wheel pops up on this car and you are accelerating, you are gaining time like crazy. It's unbelievable. I don't know why it works like this. It really shouldn't work like this, but it does. I definitely thought that this was something you guys should know about racing, because curb boosting is literally so helpful. So guys, just to review everything that we've really gone over, go as high as you possibly can in the tubes, use shortcuts whenever possible, curb boost as much as you possibly can. There are going to be some tracks where you're not really going to be able to curb boost, like East Coast for example. That track is pretty hard to actually get a good curb boost on, however you can still do it. Also, if you guys are the host of a race, always turn catch up off, because catch up is just stupid. It slows down the person who's in first place for being good. So it's like, why would you do that? Especially if you are hosting the race, which obviously you are if you're going to be able to change the settings. That setting is probably going to negatively affect you, because you are more likely to start closer up on the grid, so you're more likely to start in a better position than other players. So if you want to give yourself, well, really an advantage, but at the same time, if you want to treat yourself fairly, just turn catch up off, because it just slows down whoever's in first place, which I personally think is just stupid, because whoever's in first place either is a good racer or maybe they're a scumbag because they pushed people out of the way to get there. But either way, they're in first place, they've earned it. So there you have it, guys. That has really been my racing guide for you guys. If you found something helpful in this video, a like is of course appreciated. If not, dislike. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.